All right, Joe. 5.7. So this is looking at spatial organization of agriculture, and so it's yeah. So here we go. This is what we're going to be learning today. Large-scale commercial agriculture. And we've talked about a lot of this stuff already, so I think it'll go a little bit those parts will go a little bit quicker. So large-scale commercial agricultural operations have definitely been replacing small family farms. Today, it is much more industrialized versus, I mean, you have, again, the average size farm is somewhere around 400 acres, where it used to be a lot lower, and so we are seeing fewer farms with more machinery and more mechanization. We're also going to look at commodity chains, and we looked at this a little bit in the video about food waste and COVID, how they were having to dump all the agricultural products out because of the supply chain issues. And so we'll look at that a little bit more closely. And then finally, technology has increased economies of scale. So we're going to start off talking about economies of scale and exactly what that is. And then the carrying capacity of land, again, that's just how much food the land can produce. And we know from our last few videos that the carrying capacity of an acre of land has gone up because of technology. All right. And so let's go ahead and get started. So this first concept, this is an economics concept, so this doesn't apply just to agriculture, but so the first concept is economies of scale. And so let me try and think of an example. So let's say that you like to make sandwiches at home, right? And if I said make 5 sandwiches, you could do that. And then I said try and figure out how to make 100 sandwiches for the day, within an hour. And then I said, okay, how about 1,000 sandwiches within an hour? And so going from 5 up to 100 up to 1,000, that is increasing the scale of your operation. And so you would sit back and think, okay, what are some things that I need in order to allow me to be able to produce a lot more? And so machines are going to be part of that, right? You're not going to hire a whole bunch of people. You will hire more, but machines are going to be part of that. And so when you hear this phrase about scaling up, that is going from a very small production to a very large production. All right. And so and here's the critical part here. So your overall costs are actually going to go up because you're buying all this really heavy duty equipment and machinery. So your overall costs are going to go up. But since you can produce so much volume, the average cost per unit, so not overall, but your per unit cost is actually going to go down. And so this was a little thing I found on the internet, which I thought was a decent example of this. So let's say that you're a delivery person, you're, agriculture. If this is your truck and you want to deliver it to this store, then it's going to cost you $2 per unit. And so so again, this is a per unit cost. So the total cost of delivery is 20 bucks, but your per unit cost is 2. If you get a bigger truck, all right, so now your cost is what, $150 to deliver these 50, but your per unit cost is $1.50, all right, because you still just have one driver, but you're buying this bigger machine, which can do more, all right. And then if we get into this truck, now you can deliver 100, and so your overall cost is 100. So that's a lot more expensive than here, but you can deliver it at $1 per unit. And so if you're a business person, you're trying to outbeat your competition, and one of those ways to beat your competition, you can try and do it on quality or on price or some combination of both. And so if this is what you can do, if you can deliver your product at $1 less than the small person, you're going to beat them, okay? Because people are very price sensitive for most things. All right. There's more of that discussion. But so anyway, so when we talk about scale, it is ramping things up. And so the volume increases significantly. The overall costs increase significantly, but the per unit costs go down. And that's why, when you look at, and we'll look at a slide in a bit, the cost of food in general has come way down because of this economies of scale. And so all that machinery that we've seen in some of the past videos, and we'll see a little bit in this one, that's all scale, okay? We're replacing people with machines, and those machines can do it a whole lot faster. And so the per unit production cost tends to drop, all right? And so this is why small farmers are getting pinched out, because these big farmers can produce their product at a lower per unit cost. They underbid the small farmers who can't, operate that efficiently, and those small farmers get pushed out. And They just can't compete. All right. So anyway, so that's what we mean by economies of scale, and this is kind of an example of it. The yield, and this is just how much is being produced. So this is corn. So the yield has gone up. So we can see with the new techniques, green revolution stuff, and all the new other technologies, the yield has gone up, and so this is our supply. All right, and as the supply goes up, the price comes down. All right, that's some basic economics for us. And so, yeah, and so this is, is this good or bad? And again, your question whenever you get asked, your answer whenever you get asked a question like that, is it good or bad, is two words: it depends. Because if you're the farmer, if you're a small farmer, then are you happy or sad about this? You are extremely sad because you can't compete with the bigger farmers. If you're the consumer, are you happy or sad about this? You're going to be happy about this because you're getting food at a lot cheaper price. If you're the corporate farmer, so big time farmer that can afford all these machines, then you're also going to be happy because you're making more money. All right, and so it's much more. There's more to it than just saying, "Hey, this is good" or "Hey, this is bad," and this goes for everything. Try and find the different perspectives on things to see how it affects different people. All right, and so economies of scale, in an strictly economic sense, it's a great thing because there's more of stuff and it's cheaper. But there are some losers here, and those people that are losing are the ones that can't compete. All right, and so we've seen a shrinking of the number of farmers, but anyway, and so just real quick, economies of scale. This is that T-shirt project thing that we watched where they made the T-shirt. Take note here. Where is it? The shipping costs. 10 cents for shipping, and this is the cost: 10 cents to ship to the United States from Bangladesh. Okay, clear across the world, it costs 10 cents for the T-shirt. That's what scale is, and those big cargo ships with the crates. It's not what word I'm looking for, but they can ship stuff so much cheaper. 7 cents to go from Colombia to the U.S. And so that's what scale is. Before those cargo ships, it used to be a lot more expensive, and so it didn't work. And so again, who benefits? The consumer does. We're only paying 10 cents to get a shirt shipped from Bangladesh, but now they can produce those shirts in Bangladesh, and guess where they're not producing them? They're not producing them in the U.S. And so, again, is this good or bad? It depends. If you were a shirt maker in North Carolina, this was very bad. All right. And so, anyway, that's some of the economics of it. And here's the last little bit. So, small scale farming, and again, this is like subsistence versus commercial. Very, very much subsistence and commercial. So smaller farms, higher labor costs and fewer machines. And so again, it's all about the per unit cost here. So the per unit cost to grow this plant is going to be higher than to grow an equivalent over here, because this is large scale. So lower total labor costs. You're going to have fewer workers. They're going to get paid more, by the way. But the overall cost is higher. But by being able to produce like this, that scale, it's a huge scale. They can they can turn a profit. All right, and so again, we are happy. The consumer is happy because this stuff is now cheap. These farmers are happy. This farmer gets pushed out. Okay, on a big scale. Now, obviously, there's still room for local farmers and things like that. But as an agricultural economy, this is what's happening now. Whoops. All right. And take a look at this. Home gardener. If you garden, you or somebody gardens at home, I try every now and then, and it is terribly, terribly, terribly inefficient. It's always a lot more expensive, but it's a hobby, so that's good. So if you look at like who can produce a tomato cheaper, this would be a homegrown tomato. This is a commercial tomato. This tomato is going to cost a lot less than if you grew it yourself, but this one's going to be a lot better. All right. But anyways, that's what economies of scale is. I mean, let's just pretend, that might be 20 cents. And if you're growing your own plant, the water and the fertilizer and the dirt and the plant itself, you might be into, instead of 20 cents, it might be like 70 cents per tomato, something like that. You get the idea. But and that's just general rule. I mean, these numbers can be changed, but all right. So commercial farms, again, we know have replaced a lot of family farms. There are, and this is just kind of an overview, complex commodity chains, the carrying capacity. So uh, take note down here: commercial farms, corporate farms, agribusiness, all those mean the same thing. All right, so those are kind of interchangeable terms. And when we look at agribusiness, we've seen this chart before. This is our number of farms in millions. So here's the 1920s, 30s, 40s, the World War II time frame, right around in here. We were at the height of our family farms, and then after that, the number dropped dramatically. We can see it's starting to level out a bit. It's still a slow decline, but this is the average farm size. So notice when the number of farms went down, the average farm size went up, meaning that the total land that was farmed actually stayed relatively constant. Okay. And so you can see here some of this data over here. And we do know that mechanization is the big deal. And it's all the machines that are allowing us to do this. Alrighty. A number of farms have consolidated, become integrated into a commodity chain. So if you're a commercial farmer, you are part of a commodity chain. And by commodity, we just mean a product whose use, I'm trying to think of a good definition for it. There's nothing special about it. Okay, it's used in a lot of stuff. A potato is a potato is a potato. It's a commodity, right? So anyway, we watched that video in class. So we can skip that. So let's look at some supply chains. So when we talk about supply chains, again, I refer you back to the video we watched about dairy and the effect of COVID that COVID had on agricultural sales. That's what we mean by supply chain. Let's just take a quick look at this. This is for Coca-Cola. All right, and so what does the supply chain look like for Coca-Cola? So you have the production of vanilla, lemon oil, whatever ingredients they put into it. So there's our agricultural production. Then we also have, they got to get the water, production of sugar, production of corn, CO2. So these are all the agricultural suppliers. Then it has to go, this part has to go to the primary processing. So manufacture of concentrate in specific plants. By plants, they mean factories. And so Coca-Cola company does this. Then we go to the bottling, secondary processing. So we get these two inputs, they go to bottling. Then we get the actual product that they store in a warehouse. Then from the warehouse, it goes out to different stores, vending machines, fountain sales, like in restaurants, supermarkets, and then wholesalers. Then we have the promotion part of it. And then finally, the consumer drinks it. And so take a note of this. This is impressive. 1.5 billion servings of Coca-Cola. I'm guessing that's per year, but so anyway, so here's something similar, and this goes back to the video we watched about making a T-shirt. Here's the cotton and here's the shirt, and so all those different processes in between. It goes to the spinning place, and then it goes to the where they sew it all together, and then it has to get dyed or stamped or what other logo. So that's that. This is what an agribusiness would look like. So again, this is just a supply chain. So we take corn production farming here. So all the farmers go, and then that product gets delivered to food processing plants. They mess with it. So think about corn. It would get sent to someplace, and they would produce corn starch out of it. Would be one of the things. Then the corn starch would get on a tractor trailer or train or whatever, and then go to the food production facility, like Cheetos, they use cornstarch, and then they would make the product there, and then it would go to the retail store. And so this is kind of, again, what we mean by supply chains. And I talk about Cheetos here. I wanted to pull up this ingredients list, and I want you to think about the supply chain that's involved in making flaming hot Cheetos. All right. And we've talked about corn and how corn is in everything. So take a look at this. So cornmeal. So there we have a corn farmer. Vegetable oil, corn oil, canola or sunflower. So there's different other agricultural people. Flamin' hot seasoning, not even going there, but this is made from corn. How about that? Salt, there's another industry. Sugar, there's another industry. Yeast extract, another one. Citric acid. Let's see, these are different chemistry. Sunflower oil, cheddar cheese. So now we're into the dairies. Onions, whey, no whey. So that's dairy as well. Garlic, buttermilk, sodium, and then finally salt. And so think about all these different growers of these different products, and they all end up coming together to make flaming hot Cheetos, right? And it's very much like the production of a pencil. That nobody knows how to produce a pencil. Nobody really knows how to produce a bag of Cheetos. If you dropped them on in a jungle somewhere and said, "Hey, produce this," no way they could get all this. All right. So that's kind of the idea. So think about the supply chain that provides all of that. And then they have to make it at the factory. They put all those ingredients together, make it at the factory, and then ship it out to all the different stores. All right. This is one for palm oil. Palm oil is in a lot of stuff that you'll find if you start looking at the back of it. Chocolate, it's in a lot of chocolate. So anyway, so palm harvest would be there. So local farmer would take it to a centralized place where a lot of local farmers go. It gets put on a truck. Mixed fruit is loaded onto a truck, large transport to a larger collection facility. So this happens a couple of times. Then it goes into a big truck to where they would produce crude palm oil. And so once that's done, it's put on a truck, taken to a place, into storage facility. Then they can put it on a boat, and that boat brings it over. It gets offloaded onto a truck. Then it goes to a food grade. It gets refined into something that you would actually put into food. They put it on a truck. Then it goes to the factory, like making a chocolate bar or something like that. And then the chocolate bar ends up with us. And so whenever you see palm oil as one of the ingredients in things that you eat, it starts on a plantation way far away from here. Alrighty. And so again, when we talk about supply chains, and this is just for one of those ingredients. So if we go back to this, it's similar thoughts about that. All right, technologies increase the carrying capacity. Not going big into this. We know this already. Complex machines, herbicides, pesticides, fertilizers have greatly increased crop yields, transportation advances. I did want to look at this. So this is the labor force. And so mechanization has definitely had an impact on the labor force. I'll just show you some clips of it. So large farms, definitely increasingly mechanized, and which makes it hard for family farms to compete. Migrant labor is used for planting and harvesting. And so this is an example. This is how lettuce, let me get rid of that, how lettuce gets harvested. Let me just skip ahead. And so, whoops, that guy's being silly. And so they have this tractor with whatever facilities on it, and it goes along the rows very, very slowly. All right, and then you have these people who are cutting it and getting the loose leaves off of it, and then putting it in a bag and throwing it in. And so this is often migrant labor and an extremely, extremely important part of our agricultural system in the U.S. All right, and so that's part of the labor force. Here's some of the agricultural machines. All right, and so again, we've looked at some of these before. That's rototilling. All right, so you get the idea. And I've shown you some of these machine videos already. They're fun. It's a good rabbit hole to go down on YouTube if you're into that kind of thing. So anyway, so that's that part. All right. And again, talking about family farms versus corporate farms, this would be an example. There's a lot of these old John Deere tractors that are still going in family farms. This is what a corporate farm tractor looks like. All right, this might sell for about $700,000, $600,000, something like that. This might sell for about $30,000. You get the idea. All righty. Processing plants. So a lot of processing plants go and hang on just a sec. A lot of processing plants use, again, migrant labor, low-cost laborers to work there when the agriculture comes in. This is actually, so this is in Johnston, South Carolina. When I was 14, so a lot of y'all's age right now, I actually worked in this factory. So this just gives you a sense of, this is for peaches in Johnston, South Carolina. And so this is what a processing factory might look like. All right. Let me just forward ahead here. And so they all come in. And so this is mostly migrant labor today. Picking in the fields, picking the peaches themselves would be migrant labor as well. Here's an overview of it. So they're just going through and picking out peaches that are more ripe or less ripe or oversized or whatever. But anyway, so that's what a processing plant looks like. for peaches, but it would be similar in other areas. All right. And so I do want to talk just a second. We're close to being done. The role of immigrants within the food supply chain itself in the United States. So let's take a look, and you won't have to know all these numbers, but this is one that I do want you to know. 22% of all U.S. food workers are immigrants. And so we can kind of see here 30% of the agricultural workers, 27% in food production, 70% transportation, 23% grocery, 17% retail. All right, immigrants are a huge part of our labor force for agriculture. So I'll leave it at that. Take a look, though. 69% of California agricultural workers are immigrants, 70% of Alaska seafood processing workers are immigrants, 66% of Nebraska meat processing workers are immigrants. And so, these are critical jobs to the U.S., and it is an extremely important part of our economy. Whoops. Ooh. Not sure what just happened there. Hang on just a sec. Oh, my Lord. I'm almost done, too. Sorry. All right, so that's that. So let's take a look. Like I said, just about done. So impacts of commercial farming, and I've gone over this a bit already. So increased food production, so more food at lower cost. All right, so this makes people happy for sure. Technological development, employment opportunities, lengthens food availability. So all of these are very good things, but there are some costs. So if you look at meat processing facilities, issues of animal cruelty are there, impacts to small business. So those small farmers, they definitely are feeling it. Some of the environmental concerns, animal waste or byproducts, and you've probably done some of this, CAFOs, I think you did in environmental science, increased runoff of pesticides, again, pollution and runoff, and sometimes lower food quality. Again, it is cheaper and there's more of it, but sometimes quality might suffer. In some cases, quality might be better. So again, these aren't, there's always exceptions to this stuff. Take a look at this. And again, this is our commercial farming per capita. So per capita just means per person. Disposable income spent on food in the United States. So disposable income is the money that you have left after you've paid your taxes. And so you can see back in 1960, we were spending almost 18% of our overall disposable income on food. And today it's down to 10%. All right. We've leveled out right around in here, about 2000. But I mean, that's 8% of your income you don't have to spend on food, and now you can go spend it on something else. So you might be able to get a bigger place to stay. You might be able to take a vacation. You might be able to pay for other bills. You might be able to put money away for college. I mean, you can do a lot of this stuff. You can do a lot with this money, okay? And so it does free people up. And, when we talk about quality of life, that's part of it, okay? And take a look. So this is primarily at the grocery store. So the cost of food at home. So this is if you cook your own stuff. That's gone down with the total food, but going out to eat has actually, so we had a little spike there, and then it's actually stayed right around 4% of people's income. Okay, so we're going out at about the same rate in terms of our income, but cooking at home has gotten a lot cheaper. And so you can see how much countries spend on food. Here, so this is a little bit different. It's always fun when data is different, but so this is just saying, and this is per capita disposable, all right, and that's what the difference would be here. So this is percent of household expenditures. So 6.5% in the U.S. We are one of the lowest, and it is all because of this commercial agriculture. United Kingdom, Canada. So you can see where these numbers are. Take a look down here. Nigeria, they're spending over half of their income. Half their household expenditure, on food, that's a lot. If you're trying to save up for other things, it makes it much more difficult. And so anyway, just real quick, this is the most lucrative food crop in each state. So you can see here in Arizona, it is lettuce. So we've got a peanut belt here, then wheat, rice, and rice there. I think that was all grown in this area. But anyway, you can kind of get, if you have a state that you're particularly interested in, potatoes in Alaska, how about that? And then sugarcane in Hawaii. So you can see I mean, we like to grow wheat. They make wheat thins. All right. And then finally, we have two types of agriculture. One is food production for us, the humans, and then other is food production for the livestock that we like to consume. And so you can see human food versus animal food. A lot of the corn is grown for animals that we then like to eat. So over here, more is grown for human consumption, and then the darker red, more is grown for livestock consumption. Okay. We're going to skip that one, and I think that's it. All right. That's all. Y'all take care.